And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. Today we'll be talking about magnetic fields, Quagmire shields, Russia and China and COVID. Oh no! We've also seen a C-class solar flare, and there are some filaments building up in the Earth-facing region of the local yellow dwarf. Here it is. It's otherwise known as the Sun. It's a 304 angstroms view of said star. And that solar flare came out of sunspot 2770 just earlier today, August 8th. That was a 48-hour view from the SDO. We're putting the magnetometer data at the beginning, not because it has any particular relevance, but because I wanted to show the Gong 2 and Stereo A early in the video instead of late. So there's the GOES magnetometer data, and we see an apparent weakening of the south solar polar field, as we don't see it showing through despite all that activity north of the equator. So this data is 1 hour and 24 minutes old. Could be a strengthening of the North Pole field as well, and we'll look at that data later, the solar polar field data from solon.info. Here's the line of sight field plot, and you can see the B field here in blue moving a little bit toward sunspot 2770, but not very much. You see a little bit of that B field movement there. And that sunspot has appeared to have degraded despite producing a flare over the past 24 hours. Here's the view from Stereo A, and here's what I'm talking about. We see a pretty significant plasma plume here, and this is typically what we see prior to a coronal mass ejection. So it's not a forecast for a coronal mass ejection. It's just about 60% more likely than not to happen. Sometimes these do collapse back, but usually not. And if you're wondering where Stereo A is, it's out at Lagrange point 4, I believe it is. And here's the current state of affair with the fields. And sunspot 2770 has indeed weakened a bit, at least in terms of its umbral size and its trailing umbra. So here's a recent video of what the fields are doing. Nothing too exciting really happening there. That's only through 4 universal time yesterday. Anyway, here's one in 171 angstroms, which shows the solar flare right there. You can see all those. You can see that X-ray flare moment happens right about here. There's another view of that. I'll bring that back again for you. And it looks like a pretty good opportunity to catch some pretty high-res images of this C-class flare. So now we don't usually promote spaceweather.com, but we do look at the site a lot of days. Spaceweather.com is where I first started following space weather and learning about this sort of stuff back in the early 2000s, around 2002. And they got this great animation here of the Perseid meteor shower. I just wanted to show y'all. It's from meteorshowers.org. Who knew? It's got this great tool you can rotate around, and it's showing you where the Earth is kind of crossing through the comet tail from Comet Swift-Tuttle. Anyway, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux has come back up to 74 solar flux units. Almost at that 75 line, which we haven't actually seen since looks like we haven't seen that since about October of 2017 in terms of monthly smoothed values. And there's the graph for sunspot number progression. KP index is at 2. That's a measurement of global geomagnetism for you new viewers out there. And here you can see the X-ray graph. I'll show you the 6 hour, since for once it'll actually show up on there. Let's go for the 1 day. And it was a quite fleeting moment there, returning back down to baseline quite quickly. Proton flux remains flatlined. No coronal mass ejection strikes have happened. By the way, we've got a bunch of power outages yet going on. And more about this later, as there are major implications to this stuff. And there are lots of steps that you can take. One of which is to use Broadcastify. But we'll save that for another time. And looking at the real-time solar wind, we see big striations here in the density and the speed. So check it out. We see the density moving all the way between 7 protons per cubic centimeter all the way down to about 1. So big gyrations there in the speed and the density. So very variable situation here. Also, we see the BT-BZ diverging from the zero line here. So you see the BZ is looking south pole now. It's pardon my delay, it's -3 for the Z portion and +4 for the total field. So slightly oriented to the south now, and it's looking like it's getting a more signally. BT-BZ is 4 and -3. Current phi angle around 120 degrees, and we see it bouncing back and forth around 180 degrees here. Looking pretty coronal holy. We'll look at 193 angstroms later. Current phi angle around 149 degrees. Solar wind density somewhere between 3 and, I'll say between 6 and 1 proton per cubic centimeter. Maybe between 6 and 3. It looks like it's narrowing it a little bit. So solar wind density all over the place, solar wind speed all over the place. Current solar wind speed still over 400. Please return control of my computer. Oh, well, thank you. There we go. And next, the Geospace Magnetosphere movie. Here's the density, and you can see that variation in the density coming in. And low density here shown in white, high density shown in dark blue. And here's the pressure. And we'll just let that play through as we do most days, although some days we miss it. I think I might have missed it yesterday. Cheers. So there are significant electrons out there also, and so there's a lot of raw materials to perform chemical reactions in the magnetosphere and the ionosphere, and there you see some of that going on. Next, looking at a little closer to home, ground-based magnetic perturbations here, and those were each 4 hours of data we showed you, and you can see probably some induction-induced spikes. We don't see major magnetism changes during this geomagnetic excursion, where we've got 2 north poles and the south pole is in the Indian Ocean. And welcome to another edition of the Smash Lights, where I go na 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 na, but I keep the fire burning, folks. Oh yeah, you got to keep the fire burning, you know. All right, just kidding. No, seriously, keep the fire burning. Like big time. And just bear with me 1 minute. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Smashlical difficulties. We need mood music to be able to talk about the scary and spooky things that we're going to talk about. And it's going to get real scary and real spooky real quick. And why is that? Because I'm going to vanish again. And then return in a very creepy fashion. Now, today we're going to talk about all kinds of things like China and Russia and all kinds of stuff like that. Alright, enough of that. That's too dark. And I guess I'll reappear First, let's talk about the scariest, spookiest clothing you could possibly own. Today's featured t-shirt it's at the smAsho store. They're all linked below the video. Today it's going to be about the Mansa t-shirt. Make America not suck again. It's up to you. Whether it's on the local level, or on the state level, or perhaps on the national level. Making America not suck again is not an option. It's a requirement. Perhaps order yourself a purple one. Because, oh, I don't know, you ride for a cycling team like Team Velo Shop. Anyway, if you haven't checked it out yet, check out the smAsho store. Again, it's linked below the video. And today I'm wearing an effin' shirt. We're going to have more effin' shirts coming out soon. Let's talk about number 3 in our mission. If you haven't read our mission, head to smAshomash.com/forum/mission. And you can read all about it. Today's featured mission portion is to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach. Now, we're trying to multiply our reach, but we decided to use YouTube anyway, because we weren't really aware that we would get utterly shadow banned. Let's talk about people who should be outright banned. COVIDiots. Yes, government officials who get to make decisions for you despite not knowing anything about what they're making decisions about. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about the government sinking and trying to sink me with it, yeah? Let's talk about code enforcement officers. Basically, the lowest form of government that can fine you besides a meter maid is a code enforcement officer. Indeed, Americans across the whole country have had people showing up at their yard with tape measures, measuring their grass, measuring their weeds, worried about their hedges, whether or not it has anything to do with safety, noxious weeds, edible plants. They don't care. They're going to just impose their authority because they have it. Whether it makes any sense or not doesn't really matter. They'll go to court, they'll lie, and their lawyers will also lie to back up the lies told by code enforcement. So, several attorneys may inform you that the best move is to just stay out of their way, since they have zero accountability. One of the ways to provide some accountability is to sign up for Nextdoor.com. Now, when I went to sign up for Nextdoor.com, I noticed that we didn't have a neighborhood. So I created one, and now we've got about 50% of the local neighborhood on Nextdoor.com. So perhaps check that out, create a neighborhood, become the lead like I did, as this is a way to share information and hold public officials accountable for their, let's just say, failures of coherence, lack of coherence, inability to do their own job effectively, things like that. Now, sadly, the state police have just, thanks, Trooper Nathan Bronski, all schools will remain closed until further notice as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, I've got a crystal ball right here, and it's telling me that that's a stupid idea, but hey, that's that's for another video. As, oh man. Anyway, a lot of you may be now familiar with the Innocence Project, as it's appeared on Joe Rogan, and this is exposing a lot of government corruption on a little higher, more serious level. But sadly, there's very small accountability. Now, one of the places you may want to check out, if you're seeking legal representation as I am, is Handle on the Law. One of the things you can do there is even just send a little Ask a Lawyer thing. And that's a great little section. It's hosted by Bill Handel, who's, by the way, in the Radio Hall of Fame. I think he was inducted last year. And he's got a great show on Saturday mornings on some Los Angeles radio station. I don't know, but it's great. He takes call-ins, and it's a fantastic show. So check out Handle on the Law, perhaps. They've also got a lawyer directory there.
Press enter to skip to main content. Button.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I'll definitely press enter to skip to main content. And thank you, website. Whatever website that was. Wonderful. HandleOnTheLaw.com if you've got
press
a shop
enter
for...
to skip to main content.
Apparently it's...
Button.
it's because of some kind of handicapped options. Nice. Differently abled. Now, we are on Twitter, and you may see posts from people like Tony Heller on there. If you don't follow us on Twitter, well, there's exclusive content occasionally. Let's talk about disdain for government. Now, Christian from Ice Age Farmer, Christian the Ice Age Farmer, is wondering what's growing well for me. Well, it's disdain for government and perhaps non-ironically liability without doing anything fundamentally differently. Thanks, red tape. I can't breathe. Thanks to our patrons for increasing the probability that I will continue to breathe. So we're much obliged for that, patrons. And we do put up early warnings and things on Patreon. So perhaps consider opening up your moldy, moth-filled, cobweb-induced wallet and, send us a couple bucks a month on Patreon. Again, the patrons are the assistant and associate producers of the content, the real source of funding for the videos. And again, increasing the likelihood the videos will remain free and publicly visible. We're also on Subscribestar, and there are various other links below the video, such as links to Twitch. It's twitch.tv/smAsho. Thanks to our new sub over there, we are streaming most days to Twitch for the daily space weather. And indeed, the Smash Lights actually are taken from Twitch most days as well. Take a moment to press like and subscribe if you're viewing on YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your foes, tell your science noobs and your science pros. We're talking about cutting-edge stuff over here. And while we're screwing around a lot, that's to make it interesting, not because we're some kind of hacks. Also on BitChute, and there are exclusive videos over there as well. If you haven't checked out smAsho.com/forum, check that out. 1,400 plus people are now users over there. Thanks everybody for signing up. Please post about whatever you like, as there's new movie recommendations where I can demonstrate my psychic powers. And by the way, Smash Staff, what was that movie we watched last night? I can't seem to remember jack about it, except that it was good. We've also dipped our tippy toe into the Amazon affiliate space. So one of the things that we're advertising there is the Zacurate Pro Series 500 DL. And I'm wearing one right now. And check it out, my blood oxygen is at 98% and my pulse rate's at 80% because I'm so excited about making this video for you people. So check out smashamash.com/affiliate. That's smashamash.com/affiliate. And buy some merch. Right, now this isn't official branded merch. It's just items on Amazon that I personally use. We're giving you some insight into what's in the medicine cabinet. So do us a favor if you'd like to add these things to yours and buy them through our links. Whether it's L-lysine, MSM, otherwise known as methylsulfonylmethane, almond flour, zinc, calcium, and magnesium, or shugu, look for more items to come. Let's talk about COVID. Oh my God, I am freaked out by the COVID. Holy cripes. I've decided to take extreme measures. I've got my wands, and let's go to the test pattern, because if anything gruesome happens here, I don't want to associate it with the website. All right, we're gonna get you, COVID. We're gonna get you. I got UV wands. You're out of here. I said. Oh, got him. And now, see, I'm totally safe now. So, thanks to Mothra for sending these UV wands of pure safety, because now we know that we'll be just fine. I can just set these on the table like this, right, pointing right at my face, and I can talk, and I can spit all over them and the monitor and everything. And I mean, look how awesome I look in low light. It's like I've become part of the flames. Somebody wants to know if I want to become famous, which is pretty hilarious. No, just rich, thanks. Alright, so getting back to COVID, the cheap Chinese plastic virus made in China, has got some interesting implications into geopolitics. So let's get into it. But first, let's give you an insight into my subscriptions. Here's one. Hans-Andre Stamm has removed a video. Oh, darn it. Here's one from Hans-Andre Stamm. Let's see if it's back. It's back. So now Hans-Andre Stamm is one of my favorite organists. There's a great rendition of Toccata and Fugue in D minor by him, where he plays it so fast it's like a minute shorter. It's awesome. And he's stoked about Toccata and Fugue in D minor, most likely. Here's a clip from the Highland Concerto for Trumpet and Organ by Hans-Andre Stamm. Nice. Highland trumpet. If you're into that Highland style music, it's pretty sweet. And let's talk about power outages, right? The CEO of Generac, named Adam Jagfeld, said that you're going to see a lot of more decentralized power and lots of good things happening in the future associated with solar and wind and batteries. Yes, that's right, batteries. Batteries are a huge deal, folks. And this is great for Generac, and it's great for everybody because you're going to have more access to basic survival, right? In the event of grids going down, they'll be better off. And like I was talking about earlier about with Broadcastify, a lot of your infrastructure is already shielded against nuclear weapons, solar flares, and power outages. So this is good stuff, folks. More good news here, courtesy CNBC, talking about massive change coming to the grid, and it's basically because of battery technology. So look for some great battery backup systems coming soon, and that's actually something that we're going to be adding to the Amazon store perhaps today. Let's talk about vaccines and how Fauci should shut up. Fauci, shut up. Now, I'm not suggesting that he's incorrect here when he says the chances of creating a highly effective vaccine are not great. So while Fauci should shut up and stop talking to every news source and just flapping his lips about nothing and allowing continue fear and panic to just go on and on for no particular reason, well, that's why Fauci should shut up. But when he says this, he's actually correct. So as far as being effective, scientists are hoping for a vaccine that's at least 75% effective. But 50% or 60% effective would be acceptable too. What say you? Please leave a comment. And by the way, I don't know why you need a vaccine for a virus with a case mortality rate of 0.04%. 0.04%. Let's talk about Russia and China. China and Russia. China and Russia prefers Biden. No, wait. Sorry. Russia prefers Trump, allegedly, and China and Iran prefer Biden, which is kind of strange. I would have thought Russia and Iran would team up since they have military connections in places like Syria. But hey, whatever. Anyway, according to this USA Today story, and according to U.S. intelligence reports, Trump has a lot to answer on for Russia, according to Biden. Okay, and that's it's going to be the most beautiful and the most amazing and the most spectacularly stupendous election that you've ever seen in your life. Okay. Pro-Russia Ukrainian parliamentarian Andy Durkok is spreading claims about corruption, including publicizing leaked phone calls to undermine President Joe Biden's candidacy in the Democratic Party, the report said. Some Kremlin-linked actors are also seeking to boost President Trump's candidacy on social media and Russian television. Oh, yeah. Now, for all of you who are really worried about this, foreign governments have and will continue to interfere with other governments' elections since the beginning of governments and elections. They're going to continue to do it. It's not particularly new, obviously. So it's just hilarious that now apparently China and Iran allegedly prefer Biden. China for Biden, okay? See, this is why I have to buy cheap Chinese plastic viruses from China. China, cheap Chinese plastic and cheap Iranian oil. And it just stinks, okay? If you've got breaking news stories for us, hit us up at the smAsho VoIP line. You can text or call it, country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. Cheap Chinese viruses from China, made of cheap Chinese plastic, probably knockoffs of good, well-made plastic Japanese viruses. Okay? Let's talk about some cosmology stuff real quick. How about potassium-rich stars? Were you aware? More data coming out making it look like heavy elements come out of the atmospheres of stars and not out of the cores, because if they came out of the cores when supernovae explosions occurred, wouldn't we see all the heavy elements there? It's just that, whoops, we don't. Perhaps read the article about seeds of life in the universe, as phosphorus is crucial to all known life on Earth. I'm not sure about extremophiles, but all the normal stuff, the stuff that doesn't live in 400-degree sulfur vents in the ocean. Phosphorus comes out of the atmospheres of stars, apparently, but for some reason, we don't see it in supernovae, where we'd expect to see it. So the way heavy elements are distributed in cosmology is super important in debunking nonsense like the Big Bang and all kinds of other silly ideas that are from the 1800s, such as stars have fusion cores and stars are fundamentally electric inside. Let's talk about, once again, chemical reactions in the atmospheres of stars. Guess what? Mainstream astronomy can't explain why you get a helium distribution like this. How come you're having so little helium here and so much here? Well, it turns out that the helium follows the magnetic field force lines. Now, who could have possibly guessed? Well, the Sapphire Project couldn't have possibly guessed because they didn't apply magnetic fields to their wannabe star in a jar, which is the problem. And I'm not going to go deep into that. Just read the article about how the helium structures are associated with magnetic field force lines. So here you can see it's another sort of image here. And what you're seeing is very low helium abundance here around the equator and higher helium abundance around mid-latitudes. Now up here, there's probably helium abundance way out in the poloidal field someplace. But that aside, you can see what I'm talking about here. When we see these open field force lines, we tend to see helium in abundance aligning to those magnetic field force lines, but not typically on the equator. It's kind of important. And it's another indication that the helium isn't coming out of the middle of the sun. But in any case, people will be confused. Let's see if they have a conclusion. In the future, scientists plan to make more observations to explain the difference in abundances. Right, because they think helium is being produced in the core of the sun in some kind of fictional fusion reaction that there's zero observational evidence for. Let's talk about the magnetic field force lines, since we're on the magnetic field force lines topic. They've been mapped in great detail for the 90 millionth time, this time by Z.H. Yang et al. And it's a great image there. I don't want to show it too long. And basically what you do, how you do this is you do very precise radio astronomy on the corona and to a lesser extent on the chromosphere. Magnetoseismology is what you would call it. And so I guess since they're saying it's the first time, it was probably measured in more detail here. And guess what? You see these areas right here? There's more helium there than there is here. Now you know. And by the way, a nuclear fusion dynamo inside the sun does not explain that. Let's talk about extreme tech. Now, they've got great articles over there. And one of the hilarious ones is how scientists are renaming, wait for it, they're renaming genes so Excel won't reformat them as dates. Now, there should be a setting in Excel that allows you to format it however you want to. For instance, if you want your column to say sept1, which is also spetin-1, which is a gene protein used for genetic sequencing, Excel will immediately change it to 1-sept. So I just think that's hilarious. Microsoft, look, we're not going to suggest that you write software on the scale of Google, but please fix that. Renaming genes because Excel won't format things the way I want them formatted is a problem. By the way, we're growing our organization, and welcome to the Neo Renaissance. If you haven't been there, check out smashamash.org. Smash staff has been kind enough to upgrade it. We've got, oh yeah, we've got BitChute, we've got YouTube, we've got PayPal, we've got locals, smashamash.locals.com, as well as links directly to the smAsho forum, the Smash store, and to the affiliate which has the Amazon products. So anyway, patronize the channel if you can. And if you want to see the videos continue to be free and publicly available, you must. And yeah, here ends another episode of the Smash Lights. Let's move on to some more stuff, which is a little less spooky, like the electron flux. And we're seeing the highest electron flux levels we've seen since March. Since February of 2020. So more electrons. I don't know. You think it's gonna... Oh my God. I felt like I had the sniffles there. I'm gonna COVID wand myself. Ah. Now I'm safe. Thanks again, Mom. Oh. Now we're all safe. We can all go around. We can go around wanding each other. We can wear a mask. We can wear PPE from head to toe. And we can wand. And that's gonna do absolutely nothing because... All right, back to space weather. And we saw pretty high warning levels here, and we see the graph has expanded, folks. Check it out. We're not looking at the bottom of the graph anymore, as we see 3 entire days without cratering of the electron flux. Welcome back, Van Allen belts. Here is the total electron content forecast. You're looking at the whole air column here. And this is all the way from where you'd have a GPS satellite down to ground level, giving you an idea of where your GPS errors would be located. If you're sailing a ship on the equator at noon, your GPS is going to be jacked up by a few hundred miles probably. And we've actually documented some GPS failures by using Ride with GPS because I keep location accuracy turned off, so Wi-Fi cannot be used to calculate my location on purpose because it'll show you GPS errors. It's quite interesting to have an average speed of over 1,000 miles per hour on a bicycle. And there's a relativistic electron forecast. It's forecasted to level out here. And I don't always use that to forecast. I just put it on the screen as a visual, as there are ways to forecast it. We won't get into it today, as that's a cosmology segment topic. Here's just one layer of the atmosphere, known as the ionosphere. And it's looking pretty normal here. Nothing to write home about. Remember, we're in Northern Hemisphere summer yet, folks. There's the latest image, 9:45 Universal Time. And this looks like a planaria. Please leave a comment if you know what a planaria is. And no, it's not. It's science. Science. Wear a mask if you want to, or leave the stupid thing behind, because my friends don't mask, and if you do mask, then you stay 6 feet behind. All right, here's the solar system layout. And we still kind of have all the planets on the same side of the sun, but not for long. Mercury is making a run for it. There's where things will be in a week. Approaching the next new moon, my favorite phase. Ah, yes, here's what's going on above my head. And pardon the length of the video today, folks. I had a lot of ranting to do. And I haven't even gotten started yet. I'll probably make a BitChute exclusive later at bitchute.com/smashamash. If you're up before dawn, you might be able to see Venus. And if you got a low horizon and clear skies, you might even be able to see Mercury at its magnitude -1.4. Not a very bright object, nothing like Venus at its magnitude -4.3. Next, looking at the earthquake rundown of the past 24. We don't see anything over a 6 magnitude, I don't think. And we're going to just report on whatever I feel like this deep one at the Fiji Islands. At a mid-4 magnitude, it's a 552 kilometer deep quake. Another deep quake at Fiji, very close to the last one. Here's a deep quake at Chile. A 4.7 magnitude at 123 kilometers. So yeah, nothing over a 6 magnitude here. And we are just coming off of some high-speed solar wind. And a little significant density here, but not that much density in the past 24. Next, looking at volcano rundown here on volcanodiscovery.com. That's volcanodiscovery.com. To see that Nishinoshima is still exploding. So that's an uptick there in the Japanese islands. It's a 13,000 foot plume. Cinnabung. Cinnabung now back on the list, folks. Flight level 15,000 there. That's newly returned to the list. Semaru, flight level 140 there, 14,000 feet. Sabancaya exploding, 21,000 foot ash plume there. And Villarica back on the list. Emission reported and an 11,000 foot plume of ash. Please do not attempt to tightrope or pole vault or do a handspring over the caldera at Villarica. We need the views. Next, looking at weather.gov. To see not very many weather warnings here. Some heat advisories in the central U.S. And have you heard how the Florida current is now weaker than any point in the past century? Well, it has to do with the Gulf Stream and the Atlantic meridional oscillation, as the Mississippi River is actually heating up places like England and Iceland in some ways. And the AMOC is a very important decider of how the Northern Hemisphere's weather plays out. So I remember in 8th grade returning home from school one day and realizing that there's a crazy negative feedback mechanism that happens there when fresh water goes into the AMOC. If you see the Thames freeze, look out Northern Hemisphere. If the Thames freezes, all bets are off, because all kinds of farmland in places like Canada and Russia will shut down. In any case, apparently the Florida current is weaker than at any point in the past 100 years. How they're measuring it? Well, there are mathematical models involved here. And of course, they're worried about the implications of sea level change. I won't get into things like carbon dioxide in this video. Thank God. Anyway, the Florida current does affect the AMOC, and it does affect what you would call the Gulf Stream, which are the currents that cause Iceland and England, the British Isles, to be as warm as they are despite being at such high latitudes. Next, looking at windy.com for the pressure maps. We'll let it advance into tomorrow. That's a GFS forecast. There's where things will be at 1 p.m. tomorrow, my time. And for all you new viewers out there, I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Here is the jet stream of the Northern Hemisphere, and it is all over the place. Extremely incoherent, like certain government officials. Here's the Western world's jet streams. Here's the South geographic view, South Pole geographic view. And the jet stream down there is very concentrated and a lot more coherent than it is in the west, in the north. And here's the Eastern world's jets. I've done the Four Corners jet streams. It's time to move on. And heading to the Blitzortung hosted lightning maps, that's blitzortung.org, otherwise known as lightningmaps.org. It's a little different format. If you want to check out Blitzortung, it's not bad. Hey, Kansas City, there's thunder rolling in from both the northeast and from the south. Yowzers. Next, looking at water vapor maps. Here we are over the Africa and Europe region. Water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Please leave a comment if you're in the Far East, the Orient. You know, places like Japan, Taiwan, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, places like that. Here's a water vapor map for the Americas. Looks like there's some Saharan dust out there once again. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar. And we are running super late today. I apologize for the lengthy video. And next, got to look at the U.S. water vapor map, and we're going to zoom in on northwestern Missouri, as well as possibly Wisconsin. Shout out to all the cheesehead types. Don't worry, folks. Next year won't be an election year. And I don't see the... Did I get rid of the state lines or something? I don't know what I did there. Standard. There we go. Now we know what we're looking at. All right, cheers. Ah, the dangers of the live stream, the dangers. Anyway, there's what's going on over Missouri. And those might stagnate a little bit as we've got two dry massive air masses colliding just to your south. Let's look at that area over Wisconsin and get this thing wrapped up so we can get it uploaded and watch it with our viewers before we're old and gray. Before we're old, gray, and still not scared of the COVID. And there's that storm over northern Wisconsin. It's looking like it's going to continue on its southeast trajectory. And thanks, Smash Team, for tuning in. It's time for me to vanish. And thanks, GQ Hunter 16649, for the great comment about being famous. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, as we've got 3 bonus pains. Don't be pains. Stay tuned for the bonuses, where we look at the intensity-gram, the magnetogram, and another 48-hour SDO video of the local yellow dwarf known as the Sun, or Sol, which is the Rosetta Stone of cosmology. We see a weakening of the trailing fields. This sunspot may become an alpha-class sunspot today, as those trailing umbra look even weaker than they did when I did show prep. But the leading umbra remains pretty significant. There is still penumbra there that's even visible on the magnetogram. Here's the intensitygram, and you can see it's still beta class, as we do have some opposite polarity trailing umbrae. So there's the view of 2770 in ultra high res. Let's look at the 193 angstroms view here. It's a 48-hour SDO video. Before we call it a day, you'll see the solar flare right at the very end. You'll see that X-ray flare. Don't confuse photons and protons, folks. Solar flares are photons, and coronal mass ejections are protons. They're very, very different in things like mass and speed. The photons only take 8 minutes to get here, and the protons, they take at least 30 minutes so far as we know. I don't know of any faster proton arrivals than about 32 minutes, which, by the way, is about 1/4 the speed of light, if you're wondering. In any case, welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Please visit the links below the video and support the channel, as we are tanking while we're thanking our viewers. Remember, stare at the sun. Don't drink no matter how much the government drives you to drink. And if you do drink, don't drive. Get outside. Do one little thing to improve your life. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back. And that government boot, not on your neck.